As you see, many cultures around the world have often had this mother goddess motif, this mother son goddess, but primarily this primordial mother goddess. And we still see this in religions today. I was asked a question about patriarchy versus matriarchy and when the world used to be a matriarchal system. Well, the world has never been a matriarchal system where women actually ruled, but it was a system where women had more rights, and also where the lineage, the ancestry of a person went through the mother, because it was guaranteed that when that baby came out the mom, that baby went through that mother's ancestral line. Prior to Hezekiah, Josiah, and Ezra doing their redactions of your Old Testament, during their editing, I should say, of their Old Testament, of the Old Testament, what you had was the lineage of a child went through the mother. It did not go through the father. So that was the matriarchy. And also, when a man married a woman, he usually would stay with the wife's family, and the wife would be the inheritor of her father's property, and so on and so forth. So you had a matriarchy in that sense, where women had more rights, they owned more land. But then as we move through a 2,500 year history, you began to see a change in that. And the final nail in that coffin came with Ezra. Ezra even went as far as when he went back to Jerusalem under the Persian Empire, that he then told people, the men of that time frame who were still marrying Canaanite women, that you cannot be a true Jew if you were to marry a Canaanite. That if your children were born from Canaanite women, then your child could not be a true Jew. So you must divorce those women and marry a Jewish woman in order for you to be considered a true Jew. And this is around 534 BCE. You had some back and forth between Hezekiah and his grandson, who, when he ruled, he went back to the polytheistic ways of having Yahweh and his wife Asherah. But that mindset of a mother goddess goes all the way back, far as we know, to the Sumerians with Namu. Namu was this water goddess, this primordial water goddess. And we see this in multiple cultures. After some time, Namu gets regulated down, and then you have Anu and Tiamat, and then finally you have Anu and Ki, and the mother goddess of all creation. Just like in the Greek story, you had this mother water goddess, Uranus, I believe, who then birthed out all the other gods. And I could be wrong about the naming on that. It may not be Uranus, but they had a mother primordial ooze, that water flowing, that birthed out all the other gods. The same thing within the Kemetic society, from the Ogdoad, you had this water primordial deity that birthed out Ra as a physical being that created created the earth. But as far as creating the universe, it all comes out of this mother goddess mentality that has been spread throughout multiple cultures around the world. They seem to have this same idea. Even down in the Greeks, you get to Gia, and she is the mother of the earth, goddess who manifested everything here on earth. Even in your Bible, when you first read it, it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, right? He created the firmament, the heavens and the earth. But the waters was already here. And then his breath fluttered over, his ruach fluttered over the waters. So he did not create the waters. The waters was already here, which kind of goes with the Gnostic idea of the monad that then created the Sophia, and the Sophia and the monad and the Sophia created the demiurge, and then the demiurge was supposed to create with the Sophia, which would represent that primordial waters, but instead it created without the Sophia. It created man and land and the firmament without the Sophia, and then made this world, right? And the Christ mind was then sent later to bring the Sophia into this creation that the demiurge had already created. So different groups have a similar teaching of waters, and these waters being feminine. Even when you look at Tiamat being the salt water and Apsu being the fresh water, and in their creation had to be separated so that the ferment can then be created. So we still see the same process going on here throughout the world of a mother goddess that is represented normally by water, and from that mother goddess all of the creations happen, because Tiamat had to be killed so that the rest of creation can happen. Depending upon when you're looking at it, you either have her being being killed by the Apsu, or separated from the Apsu, or killed by Anu, or been done in by Marduk, because Marduk, she wanted to kill off all the other gods, and Marduk had to save all the other gods and kill Tiamat. So they changed that story with the Babylonian teachings of it, away from what the Assyrians and Akkadians had been teaching prior to that, whether it was Enlil or Anu who actually did the creating after that. But this is also why the Canaanites and many others had a wife to their deity. The Canaanite deity of Yahweh had a wife, Asherah. Asherah was his wife. This is why ancient temples, ancient synagogues show they have an Asherah pole. Hezekiah tried to bury the Asherah poles. They were later rediscovered by his grandson, Abida, something like that. And then when Josiah comes in, he buries them again or gets rid of them. And then Ezra, after the Babylonian captivity, completely does away with the idea of Yahweh, which has now been merged together with El, to have had a wife named Asherah. And they get rid of the Asherah poles, and she's regulated to just a stick by this point. And like I said before, Ezra was hardcore about changing everything to a patriarchal line. Here's one of the problems, and this is why they talk about how, Solomon worshiped multiple gods. He was polytheistic, and that David was more than likely polytheistic as well, and that Moses was polytheistic with his serpent on the pole and everything. But when you look at what was going on during those time frames, these people worshiped multiple deities. They believed that other deities existed. They were henotheistic in their beliefs. So this idea that they only worship this one God, that was something that could have been, I ain't gonna say would have been, but could have been promoted to Ezra and even to Josiah, because of the Persian influence into this region, and with their worship of Zoroastrianism, which is a monotheistic religion that teaches that Ahura Mazda is the primary only deity, and he has his opposite, which is Agramenia. So they could have been and possibly were influenced by that. That may be why they had favoritism towards the Israelite people when they released them from captivity in Babylonia. Because of their similarity between having a possible one deity, one primary deity. But we don't know all the exact information concerning that, as there is not a ton of information that will let you know. But to claim that the Israelites have always had this monotheistic religion is a falsehood. It's just a lie, because they have demonstrated in their archaeology that they did not. But what they did have was this similar mother goddess water deity, much like the Kemetic story that even goes after Ra, with Jeb and Nut embraced in this embrace of the waters above and the waters below, the fresh water and the salt water. And then Shu, the wind god, came in and separated them. And guess what? Yahweh is a wind god, a storm god. El is a wind god, a storm god as well. But y'all have a great day. And remember, always, you got to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.